Well, hello, and welcome to this week's episode where we are continuing on the Boundary Bootcamp season. So, this is going to be a series of videos all talking about boundaries and how you can actually up your boundary game. So, in this week's video, I want to talk to you about your workplace. Do you work in a toxic work environment? Do you work with a toxic coworker, perhaps even a toxic boss? Have you ever had this situation where there's a lot of drama where you work? And it really does impact your life because you guys think about it. If you work in an office, if you have a regular job, how many hours a day are you spending with these people? And if it's stressful or you've got a war going on with someone or other people have a war going on, and even if you're not in it, it impacts you. This is really has the potential to really negatively impact the quality of your life. So let's talk about what is a toxic work situation. Well, it is a lot of infighting, a lot of drama. A lot of times that infighting and drama actually negatively impacts productivity, the actual productivity of what you're supposed to be doing there, because people don't want to work together because they don't like each other. There's a lot of different personalities in a workplace that can make it toxic. If someone is making advances towards you that you're not interested in, that makes it toxic. And of course, in the US, that's also against the law. If they continue to do that, that is for another video, though. Other boundary violations, though, people going into your computer, people looking at your phone, people standing too close, people hovering over what you're doing, asking you questions about how much money you make or what project you're working on, people being really competitive with you, or maybe you feel that way about other people that you work with, right? Are you very competitive, or are you sort of the boundary bully? I don't know. But these are all experiences that can really make your work life, hence your real life, miserable. So I want to talk to you today about 4 simple steps that you can take to change the experience that you're having if you feel like you either have toxic coworkers, a boss, or you're in a toxic workplace. Because it doesn't even have to be you. It can actually just be a war going on over there in that department, but it may be impacting you. The first thing, because you guys know I'm always talking about awareness, is that especially if it's a coworker, if you have a beef with a coworker, I'm going to have you really look at yourself and look at your side of the street in this situation, because you may be having a transference to this coworker, right? I talk about repeating realities. So there's a couple of questions that you're going to ask yourself about the coworker if it's someone who you can't stand. So the first one, and don't worry, I have a little cheat sheet for you guys that you can download so you don't have to take notes. But the first question, so think about that difficult person, and it could be your boss as well. And the first question is, who does this person remind me of? Somebody in your life from long ago. Who? The second question is, why, where have I felt like this before? And the third question is, why is this dynamic, this behavioral dynamic, this interaction that we're doing, why is that familiar to me? And another way of framing that question is looking at it from the point of view, who do I become and who do they become when the interaction starts to go south? So I'll give you a quick example of this. When I was at my internship as I was becoming a psychotherapist, I had a boss who I was very afraid of. There was no really good evidence in real life that I should be afraid of him. He never really did anything to me. But I had all these ideas about him. He was a jerk. He was judgmental. He was cold. He didn't like me. All these things. I mean, I would avoid him. It was an extreme. If he was walking down the hallway, and so was I would actually go into the ladies' room to avoid having to interact with him. It was ridiculous. In the team meetings, I never spoke. And finally, my therapist was like, okay, so you're convinced that this guy's an idiot, but can you give me more evidence of how he's an idiot? Because so far, you don't actually have any concrete stuff. And I was like, no, trust me, he's an idiot. And then she said, do me a favor, describe him again. And I was like, well, he's tall, probably 6'2", very good looking, kind of Brooks Brothers suit wearing, Wall Street Journal reading, like that. Probably golfs, he's cold. He doesn't talk a lot. He's very removed. And then she was like, Terri, who else could you be describing? And I was like, wow, I can't believe I didn't see that coming. And of course, that exact description was the way that I would describe my father, who I grew up being afraid of and felt like he was judging me and it wasn't good enough and all of those things. And I couldn't believe how obvious it was and how I had not figured it out. But she said to me, Terri, the reason why it matters is because you're behaving now with this boss as if you're a 10-year-old and you're relating to him like he's your father and you're a 10-year-old child. Because this is bad for your career if you don't get it together and you're not able to basically talk to him and show him how smart you are, how capable you are. How that's not good for your career. You're hoping to get a job at this internship afterwards. How is somebody going to hire you if you dive into the ladies' room whenever he's walking down the hallway? I was like, oh yeah, good point. I get it. And then she explained the whole concept more deeply of that being a transference, right? So he's not my father. Obviously, he wasn't my father, and I wasn't 10. And so why I gave you guys that last little way that you can inquire inside of you about this difficult person at work is, who do they become and who do I become when we're interacting that way? And if I had the skill set or the tools to ask that question then, I would have said, oh my gosh, I become my 10-year-old self and my boss becomes my scary father. There you have it. Needless to say, the PS on that story is I got over it. I stopped being afraid of him when the grown-up me, started driving the van of my life again. And I actually did get a job at that drug treatment center after I graduated. So that is a nice turn of events, because had I not had that realization, I would have been getting in my own way. It would have been my unresolved issue would have been getting in my way of my career and what I wanted to do at that point. So anyway, so the first thing is making sure your side of the street is clean, understanding why you are relating the way that you are to this person. Because as much as we love to blame and be like, no, it has nothing to do with me, he's just an idiot. The truth is, more than you would like to think, there is some, what I call repeating reality going on that is impacting what is happening. So the second thing I want you to do is to harness the mind-blowing power of your intention to change your mind about the situation, right? You can do this using visualization techniques, because here's the thing. If you go into work every day expecting some kind of a shit show, you definitely will have some kind of a shit show. If you go in with that energy, right? Because you have to think about your energy, what comes from you. These are like little hooks. So imagine they're coming, your fear or your anticipation, your anxiety that something bad will happen or this person's going to ask you something that you don't want to tell them or whatever. This feelings are like, they come out of your body, and imagine that they hook like things, other things that are like them, right? And that feeling was anxious or fearful, and they bring those like experiences into your life experience, right? That is really the concept of the law of attraction. And I really believe that that's true, because you can feel someone's energy when you go into a room. You feel if someone is casual, comfortable. You feel if someone is uptight and afraid. We all feel each other's energy. So if you consciously decide that you will do your work, that you will protect yourself energetically from this person, don't worry, that's on the list as well. I'm going to give you a little thing that you can do to zip yourself up. You're going in with a different mindset. Your intention is that you will do your job. You will do what you need to do. You will be joyful in your heart, and that you won't allow yourself to be victimized by other people. I think I really need to do a separate thing if it's your boss, because I'm really talking more about coworkers in this episode, where you don't necessarily have power over them and they don't necessarily have power over you, because you get into a different legality, right? Especially in the States, I'm sure other places too, that if it's your boss and you feel like they are a boundary bully or violating boundaries, if you're the boss and you're doing it to a subordinate, there's different rules and regulations basically. So this is going to be more about coworkers. But anyway, go in and visualize it the way that you want it to be. Feel the feelings of having a peaceful, productive day. This may sound stupid to you, and actually I don't care, because I promise you, the power of your intention, please don't underestimate it, because can actually change things, and it certainly changes your experience. A great quote by Wayne Dyer that I love, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who is now deceased. He said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Isn't that the truth? It sure is. So that is your second thing before we're even getting into action, right? The third thing is I'm going to have you do what's called a power pose. So, and don't worry, I'll describe it in the handout. It'll be easier. But there's a whole study that was done that if you stand, this is one of the power poses, leaning back in a chair with your feet up on a desk, that's another one of them, that if you hold that pose for 2 minutes, anytime, anywhere, feel free to do it in the bathroom so people don't think you're weird, but that something shifts and you actually start to, within your own brain, within your own body, you start releasing different hormones, feel-good hormones, almost like less stress hormones and more feel-good hormones. And then, they did a study and saw that this actually moved out and people responded differently to that person. So again, it may sound weird. I actually think power posing it works. There's a whole TED Talk on it. So we'll let you know the person's name so you can look it up if you want to. Another thing with the power pose that goes along with it is about your own body language. So if part of why you're miserable at work or one of the people at work, and listen, it doesn't even have to be like crazy boundary violations. Maybe just someone always wants to talk to you when you first get into work and you're not a morning person and you would rather have the first hour quiet and they're chatting. I used to have someone I work with like that and I was like, oh my God, stop. So your body language. So you have to be mindful of what are you saying with your body, right? If you don't want to talk, say that with your body. I mean, listen, you can also actually have a conversation, which I'm going to get to. So that is the fourth step, which is to make the simple request. But body language is very powerful for you to, if you're coming in and you don't want to talk, have that be your body language. Not mad, right? You don't have to be mad. But the way that you're sitting, don't sit open to the other person. Don't sit with your arms wide open like, here I am. A closed body language, right? So closed body language, leaning to your, looking into yourself, being in your computer screen, drinking your cup of coffee, that will give signals as well that are aligned with how you actually feel if you're trying to protect yourself from someone or if you don't really want to interact with them. And there are more extreme body language things you can do as well. If someone is in your space or if someone is talking, you can put your hand up and say, hey, I really need the first hour to be kind of quiet. I'm not the best morning person. Can we pick this up at after 10 a.m.? Listen, when you draw boundaries, you have to understand people won't like it. And you have to just not give a shit. You don't have to be rude, mean. You don't have to be aggressive. But you can't have the disease to please and draw effective, efficient, healthy, flexible boundaries. It's impossible. Because if you're so worried about what other people think and so worried about offending others, you will endlessly abandon and sacrifice yourself in that process. So we don't want that. I don't want you doing that, right? That isn't what this is about. But you have to give yourself permission. Accept the reality that when you change the dance, the behavioral dance that you've been doing with people, they might not like it. Then that's okay. They're going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to just work out fine, And here's the thing. Maybe they don't like it and you have a conflict. And then you have to deal with that, and that's okay. But it's your right and your obligation, in my book as a therapist, to be self-determined. You have to dictate, especially with boundaries, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It is not about you acquiescing to other people. And I'm not saying that we don't need to compromise in life sometimes. Certainly in work situations, yes. Home situations, of course. Compromise is a part of life. But I'm talking about everyday situations. If people are trying to drag you into a triangle at work, hell no to the triangle. You will always lose. No. So if someone tries to drag you into that, you have to, and that comes to our fourth step, which is you have to make a simple request. That's all. So if Bob is trying to suck you into a triangle with Betty and wants to talk shit about Betty and Betty didn't do what she was supposed to do, whatever, you have to say, hey, Bob, as much as I'm flattered that you like talking to me, if you are, maybe you're not, just start with something nice, fine. Or as much as I generally don't mind being an ear for you to, someone you can bounce things off of. When it comes to your beef with Betty, I'd like to make a simple request that you go directly to Betty, because it doesn't do anything for you to talk to me about it. But it does drag me into your situation, which I'd rather not. Please just go directly to Betty. You guys can work it out, no problem. You know what I mean? Maybe there is a problem, I don't know. But your whole point of drawing that boundary is to be like, peace out, I don't want to be in the middle of this crap. See? So that's one way of speaking your truth. The same thing. Simple request, though, that language itself is a very easy way of, listen, when you think about it, every ask is a simple ask. Doesn't mean the person's going to do it. But even as easy as the example that I gave you of the person who you come in and they're talking, for you to tell them the truth, that you're not a morning person, or that for you it's really productive to have the first hour of the day just diving into setting your intention for the day or doing emails. Because listen, you don't have to give someone a reason. You don't have to convince them that you have a right. But sometimes I feel like in my life, I like to provide context. It's okay to provide context for people, especially if they're people you have a relationship with and you like. But you want to tell them, I don't want to talk for the first hour of the day. As long as your workplace, the way you're situated, it's okay that you don't do that, right? That you don't talk for the first hour. I had a situation a couple of years ago with someone who was staying at my house, and I was doing some work with them. And afterwards, she had made this snide comment to me. We were having conflict about something work-wise, and she was kind of a blamer, and she was like, well, I mean, as much as it was nice for you to let me stay with you while we were doing that retreat, I mean, you get up in the morning and just talk, and it was just so exhausting and stressful. I was like, I have a really weird idea. Why the F didn't you say something at the time? You're staying in my house. I feel like I'm being a good hostess. I'm happy to meditate for the first hour of the day and not say word one to you. And had you said anything, I would have happily, and actually, had she said anything, I would have gratefully accepted her simple request to not yak for the first hour. But the way she threw it back at me, like something was wrong with me because she did not share her preference with me, which is, of course, the moment I knew that I would not be working with her anymore. That was the end of her on Team TC. At least, well, there was a few other things that were the end before that, but I knew it was coming because I was like, wow, who does that? Just tell me your preference. Or never mention it ever. But to throw it in my face, I was just like, F you, bye. Anyway, I was trying to give you a good example of how it could have been different in that circumstance. And actually, I really would have appreciated that information. And I think that other people, they might be offended at first, but then there's ways for you to sort of smooth that over. Like, I'm kind of a straight shooter because I would rather ask for what I need than end up resentful later, right? Because I really like you and I don't want to have that between us. Who's going to say anything wrong about that, right? Like, that's just an easy way of doing it. So those are my ideas for you to manage the heck out of having toxic coworkers, let's say. Of course, you guys, obviously you can use these 4 steps to draw boundaries sort of in any situation. A work situation, though, is slightly different than other situations. So a couple of things I want to tell you about. For the ladies, if you don't know, the free Facebook group is open. Sisters, go to it. Real Love Revolution. Look for it. And there will be a link right in this post that you can click. I also have the little cheat sheet for you that you can get. I really want you guys, though, if you haven't gotten into the Facebook group, please do. And for the guys, I'm actually going live. I'm doing this series, and everyone's allowed to participate in this series, which is called Wednesday Wisdoms, talking all about boundaries. And it has already begun. Last week was the first week. I had some technical difficulties in the business page, so hopefully that will not be happening next week. So I'm going live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday for the next 6 Wednesdays. And I would love for you guys to join me live. So I'll be live simultaneously on my business page, which is Terri Cole, LCSW, or if you're a chick and you're already in the Facebook group, it's the Real Love Revolution group. If you can't be there live, no problem. That stuff will be posted. We'll make it available after the fact. Of course, it'll be available on the page. But I'd love you guys to join me. And let's do this thing, right? Let's figure it out. And then I'm going to be doing our challenge will be coming up in September, and masterclasses. It's so exciting. This is my favorite season, you guys. All right, maybe I always say that because I also love Real Love Revolution season. It's a pretty great season too. So, hey, if you liked this, if you felt like this was helpful, please share this video, this blog post, this vlog on your social media channels. I would super appreciate it. That is the best way for you to support my mission in life, which is to empower as many people as I possibly can. So the more I reach, the happier I am. So thank you if you are doing that. I hope you guys have a beautiful week, drawing boundaries with ease and grace. And as always, take care of you.